Alright, time for another DraftPhysics.com, debatephysics.com also, but the debate pretty much sucks because people will not engage in the actual subject, and provide reasoning, logic, and of course, evidence. Because, if it's a scientific conversation, evidence is really important in terms of providing good reason and logic to draw conclusions. So I'm asserting that the theory that there's some sort of energy that's called kinetic energy represented by some formula that's sort of 1/2 mv squared. Originally it was just mv squared, like somehow the faster something's going is much more important than how much mass it is that's going. And my argument is it's never, ever that. It's never true. The only thing ever transferred between one object or one force and an object is momentum. The force gives things momentum proportionally, and that's all there is. So 1 unit of force, 1 unit of velocity. 2 units of force, 2 units of velocity. That's how it actually works. And in any kind of transfer, so if a light thing hits a heavy thing, there's not a tremendous loss of kinetic energy. So if a 5-ton train going 10 is transferred into a 10-ton train or 10 mass going 5, there is the momentum is always conserved, and the kinetic energy is irrelevant because it's not real. And so there's cases like the ballistic pendulum where obviously, thousands of joules of energy they claim the bullet has when it only has its momentum really. And the fact is the ballistic pendulum collects most of the momentum and loses 99.94% of the kinetic energy, demonstrating the kinetic energy is never collected. It never works. It doesn't do the equal and opposite reaction thing of the third law. It's nonsense. And yet I have to argue with humans who claim to be intelligent that, well, if you don't have any evidence for it, it's really not a viable theory, especially when it's such a simple argument. You're saying something, like the stick is level and it's crooked when you measure it. I mean, the evidence points to it not being true, not that it points to it being true. The experiments show it not to be true. We landed on the moon calculating the thrust of the momentum of the thrust, not the kinetic energy of the thrust. The kinetic energy won't make this spacecraft move with the same kinetic energy. It'll make it move with the same momentum. All right. So it's a simple enough argument, and nothing reasonable as a reply. Nothing. Just crap, insults, gibberish. So there's a lot of things wrong with this video. Yes, okay, I spelled the word wrong. Woo! Oh, you got me. No, you really didn't. It's just so the same guy says, force is not momentum. That's the whole fucking argument, for Christ's sake. So just explain to me how you know it's not momentum. So Newton clearly said it was momentum. He said, you want to go twice as fast, twice the force. 3 times as fast, 3 times the force. So clearly in Newton's book, it was completely consistent with a proportional increase in momentum. I stand on the ground, and in my reference frame, neither I nor the Earth is moving. Well, clearly you can't see, your atomic structure, but anyone reasonable in this conversation might be able to concede that that's not what's happening. There's all kinds of stresses happening in your body. So whatever point, your ass or your feet is in contact with the ground, there's all kinds of stuff happening in that location because there is a transfer of energy, a constant pushing down and a constant pushing back up. And so the idea that the ground is stationary on a molecular level that's very debatable. It's insanely debatable, actually, because we know that the ground is experiencing the pressure, because we know if we take a scale or some other object, we can see the actual impression being made. So we know we are impressing the ground constantly, and the ground has little springs and it's pushing it back up. But we know that's what's happening. There's a transfer of motion, and that's what you feel. Okay. So your argument is meaningless, ramash. Prove that the contact point between you and the ground isn't moving molecularly. If I step on a scale, the force is measured. Okay, the momentum is measured. So, I mean, I've been over this so many times. I'm going to show it over and over. It's like it has no effect on these people's brains. So I don't know where I put the scale at the moment, but you could just theoretically understand that there is a velocity that I can throw something at a scale when the scale is horizontal. And I can throw something at a scale and it will read its gravitational weight. And the argument is that exactly the same speed for any object will produce the same effect. That is, I can throw an elephant 1 mile an hour, and I can throw a mouse 1 mile an hour, and they'll read their proportional gravitational weights. But I'm not moving. So again, you're claiming you're not moving, and I'm obviously going to say, well, show me the non-moving scale. Show me the spring that doesn't move. What the hell? The scale is not moving. So what's the point of saying that crap? So again, the argument is once the scale reaches its balance, you're saying it's at an equilibrium that is dead silent, that the scale isn't experiencing any stress at all. No stress is going through the scale. The little feet on the scale aren't pushing into the earth, and the earth doesn't push back. Is that your argument? I'm saying I don't see any evidence for that being true, and every bit of evidence indicates to me that the ground does get hot, that it does cause pressure, and the pressure causes a thermal consequence. So I say you're wrong. Okay. Our momentum is 0, but the force of me on the scale, or the scale pushing back, so it doesn't mean anything, on me is my non-zero weight. So again, it's just a baby talk. The weight is a measurement of your momentum. Fact. All right. Force is not momentum. You can keep saying it, but you have no evidence to indicate why I would believe that. Newton didn't think so. He overtly said something quite contrary. And I have no reason to look at any piece of evidence and draw any other conclusion than force gives objects momentum. Force is a change in momentum. Exactly. It gives them momentum. It changes their momentum with respect to time. So, again, where have I said anything different than that? Oh, that's right. I didn't say anything different than that. Yeah, it's just a stupid argument. You have to explain. You have to tell. You have to show me that it takes, 10 times the speed is 100 times the ability to do work. And it isn't. It's only 10 times the ability to do work. It's only going to move. It's only going to be able to transfer its momentum. An 8-pound ball going 16 miles an hour and a 16-pound ball going 8 miles an hour can only give their momentum to the pins. They can't give what they don't have. And they have the same exact momentum. The 8-pound ball going 16 cannot make more matter move. Fuck. Duh. It can't make a bunch of unequal opposite reactions, to quote Newton. So I'll remove it, but Jesus, not even close. Oh, superior mind. So this will be a positive comment, but I don't know if he'll say how I would say it. They just prove your point. Most people, unfortunately, are unthinking zealots with no evidence or logic. Yeah, well, that's what's being proven anyway. So at least this is serving some purpose, in the sense that it's a pretty dramatic proof that not a single one of these commenters can do an honest thing and say, I agree that the evidence isn't good enough and that we should have completed the task of compiling evidence for our theory. I still believe in the theory. I still think it happens, but I have to concede, yes, we should have done the Eddington experiment from space. I mean, it only takes 5 minutes. It's about the most inexpensive, high-quality experiment you could possibly conceive of doing from space. I mean, it can't cost more than $10,000, maybe. I mean, if you force it to cost that much. I mean, it's so simple. Point camera, record camera what it sees. What's so complicated? You know, they make all kinds of excuses. I have to see if there's any Hubble images of Jupiter. There's, Piro made an argument like somehow Jupiter's too bright. And I'm saying, how can Jupiter possibly be too bright? Because in the sky, it's about as bright as all the other stars. So how could you look at stars if Jupiter's too bright, then the stars have to be too bright? All right, anyway, the usual flat-lined, smooth brain. I don't know what that means, but whatever. Ad hominem, yes, the attacking only the person. Yes, the messenger is at fault because he's telling you something that you don't want to hear, and that's all they got, is, defensive overreactions because they can't make a simple experimentally backed argument where they say, here's the evidence of something going 10 times as fast doing 100 times the work. So show me that. Okay. Ad populum, bandwagon appeal. Well, I don't even know if they're appealing. They're just obviously, that's the way they acquire their belief, is they find some hero to worship. So they have some icon of physics, and everything he says, he's just so smart, and they're doing something like that. I mean, they're ass lickers. Anyway, appeal to authority. Well, that's the same thing. You need a white coat. Yeah, you need a white coat, and you need badges. Okay, so, I mean, clearly, technically, I have solved quite a few problems in physics. And so, yeah, if any one of those, they would pay any attention. Like I said, all you have to do is look at the simulation. And even if you want to argue it isn't really how it works, which is fine, you'd have to concede it's one of the best models of the simplest kind of mechanism to create reflections, repulsion and attraction. So to explain how you can have one mechanism that creates both effects. And nobody's going to do it with a simpler procedural mechanical system. And so for right there, that should give me the white coat. That should give me enough credibility where they should at least be interested in hearing what I have to say about the double slit and about mv squared. Begging the question, assuming the truth, and well, that's all this is about. They'll tell you they know that a proton's made out of quarks because they know it. And how they know it? Because they're assuming the asshole who invented the idea, Bernie Gelman or whatever the hell his name was, somehow knew what the fuck he was talking about. That somehow when they saw some electrons deflect, that they could assume that, they can only deflect that way because there must have been some kind of wacky thing inside of the proton. And you're saying, how do you know that? How do you even deflect electrons off of protons? How do you even know you have single protons somewhere? I mean, it's, again, a very difficult object to pull out of nucleuses and separate. I mean, separating a proton, yeah, come on, not too likely. Anyway, hasty generalizations, jumping the evidence. I mean, yeah, so they're just making up stories. And they're invisible man stories most of the time. I mean, they're really stretched beyond all kinds of believability. And they really don't have any evidence. It's this Sasquatch thing. They have a picture of a guy with a zipper suit on. And, they'll throw that at you. Here's a 1956 picture of a positron. Well, sure, yeah, I mean, it could be a proton, but, we're calling it a positron. So isn't that all that matters, is that we called it a positron? Doesn't matter that it looks just like a proton. Okay. Resorting almost completely to ad hominem, which is pre-kindergarten. They're pig ignorant when it comes to basic logic. So, let's not insult the pigs. Because they're belligerently ignorant, right? Pigs are ignorant because they really didn't have a chance to be something better. I mean, in spite of what Animal Farm implies, we don't know if pigs are assholes. They haven't had a chance to be an asshole. Okay. Let alone evidence or science. Hopefully someone with some actual capability will debate you soon. Well, it's a capability. All they have to do is be literate in physics and understand the experiments and the actual history. I mean, the actual history of 1/2 mv squared is horrible. And a real physicist should admit, well, they shouldn't have fallen for those denting clay experiments. That was really done. And rolling objects, oh shit, you can't use rolling as a linear comparison because, obviously the friction is much different the faster the object's moving. And I think I'll do a video on springs just to emphasize the point, just on the idea that people just don't realize that springs collect energy very well. They don't release it very well. They have a very huge bias in favor of big objects, and all these experiments that were supposed to just be elastic, they always make them super elastic. So they always introduce the flaw of the spring. It's a real thing. And the fact that none of these physicists, none of these smart people could figure it out, I don't think I've ever seen, I haven't seen it anywhere, frankly. I don't think there's a single person who's ever documented the fact that springs are incredibly inconsistent in how they release energy to objects based on mass. The heavier object gets most all of the spring's energy. Light objects get almost nothing the lighter they are. Very, very light objects will get almost nothing from the spring by comparison. In terms of they'll get 10% of the velocity they should have gotten. Alright, thank you so much for this amazing video. So this is probably going to be an insult somewhere, right? Could you help me with something unrelated? Oh, I don't know what this is. My OX wallet holds some US, and he puts this crap in here like I'm supposed to care what this is. Like somehow he's messed up these words, so somewhere in here it says something, racist or something. I mean, what the fuck? Does anybody else get these? And somebody thumbed it up. What the fuck is that? I don't. They've done it like with 10 different accounts now. I mean, I just don't know if this is something like somebody's doing just to me, or is somebody doing this all over the internet? And if it's all over the internet, you think they would have blocked it by now? I mean, it's what the fuck is this? Because somebody's going to waste time trying to figure out what your little code is? Who the fuck could care? What a fucking lunatic. Just amazing. Just amazing. We have all this technology, all this stuff, and it's just wasted on all these fucking pieces of garbage we let spew shit all over the place. Anyway, saw your spam comment on another video. So I rarely comment on any videos, and now I can't comment at all. So it's obviously a very old comment because for the last 3 months or so, I haven't been able to comment on any videos. Okay, YouTube's blocking my account. I can't even watch videos while I'm signed in. I have to do a private window not signed in to even watch videos. So my subscriptions are useless. I can't see my subscriptions. The only way I can read comments is to do this. I have to read them on the main page that has all the comments. So whatever. So obviously I don't spam anybody's comments section. It's just a ludicrously silly accusation. What I do is I make response videos, and it seems fair in most cases to inform somebody that you've made a video responding to their video. Now, you don't think they would want to know? I think that's kind of a ridiculous statement. So there was no spam. Let's see, you continue to ask silly questions. Well, why don't you just answer them? I mean, I don't think that it's at all silly to argue that clearly if the 1/2 mv squared was true, then if you did a tug of war between a 10 mass going 5 and a 5 mass going 10, the 5 mass should decisively win. And it obviously doesn't. And I think you even know it won't win. And it should be able to concede, well, that's a huge failure of the theory, isn't it? All right, you continue with silly answers. I don't even know what that even means. Okay, kind of self-own making a video like that. Says you, Mr. Anonymous Coward. You know. Jesus, just so pathetic. Let's see, you are the weirdest person I've ever seen. So that would be a compliment, you know, frankly. I mean, why would I want to be a regular human, right? I mean, frankly, would you want to, do you really think you want to be a regular, normal human? You know, fat and stupid? You know, that is basically the generalization. You know, the average IQ, the average everything. Would you really want to be that? So I'm happy to be weird from your perspective. Why the hell would someone mock Professor Dave? Well, I don't think I just mocked him. What I did was pointed out that his physics is unevidenced crap. That everything he's saying to these young minds he's attempting to pollute with this garbage is essentially just molesting their neurons. He's telling them a story that isn't the truth, and he's pretending the story is well evidenced, and it's not. So, in my opinion, he's a child molester, frankly. I think he knows there's reason to doubt what he's saying. I think he knows that an 8-pound bowling ball doesn't knock down more pins. An 8-pound ball going 16 versus a 16-pound going 8. I think he knows that. And it's decisive evidence saying 1/2 mv squared is not a real thing. I mean, I think he knows, okay, that the thrust calculated as kinetic energy can't land you successfully on the moon because the spaceship won't equally and oppositely react to the kinetic energy. It will only equally and oppositely react to the momentum of the thrust. I think he does know that shit. I don't know. Well, anyway, you know, his education's a bit, all right. He's obviously very knowledgeable, but again, he's also incredibly arrogant, and I don't think he actually thinks about any of this shit. He has just memorized a bunch of crap, and that's it. But he has no real passion for physics. He stands against creationism, and what is he standing there with? Another religious flag. A wooey, silly, nonsense theory about entangled particles, all kinds of wooey bullshit, bent space, just absolute nonsense. So, you know, and where's the science? I mean, again, calling somebody a science denier when these are people who are denying science by saying we don't need to have evidence. They've never even dropped 4 pounds 1 foot and 1 pound 4 feet to prove that those are equal amounts of energy, that they collected equal amounts of force from the gravity. So even though the 1 pound object was only in the gravity for 2 seconds, not 4 seconds, so it's only in there twice as long and only acquired twice the velocity, they're claiming it has 4 times the energy, which is the same thing as claiming that if I put 1 pound on a scale, I have 1 unit of energy. And if I put a second 1 pound on, so now I have 2 pounds, I have 4 units of energy. Even though it says I only got 2 units of weight, they claim that's 4 units of energy. So what's the point of replacing a religion with a religion? There's no point in doing that. Okay. Let's see. Science deniers just like you do. So, the difference between me and him is that I'm not a wooist. Okay, I'm not selling another version of a religion. I'm selling the idea that let's really look at what we are. Let's analyze it, scientifically. And even the scientists are afraid to do that. They talk about evolution, and they talk like Dawkins writes a book and says the greatest show on earth. It's mass murder of immature organisms. Mass murder. I mean, in ratios of 9 out of 10 of them get killed as infants. And he calls that a great show. Huh? Fuck you. Is that the show you want to? You want to create that show? You want to produce it? You want to put your name on that show? All right. Let's see. What is the actual reason for being this rude and exclusive? I don't even know what the exclusive part means. The rude part just comes because of time. I've spent literally over a decade making these arguments, and I haven't gotten anything from you fucking pieces of shit as a counter argument. And when you once in a while do make an argument that is on the subject, I take them seriously, and sometimes I've had to concede, okay, yep, I've got to come up with an explanation for that, and I've repaired what was broken. That's science. What you people are doing isn't science. This stupid bullshit of just telling me what I have to believe, even though there's no evidence for it, is nonsense. Now, I have to say, look, as soon as I heard of bent space, I said, fuck, what is this? This isn't an answer. It's not a machine. It's not a mechanism. You're just saying I'm going to call the inverse square law bent space. Well, why don't I call it bent space when the sun makes photons? Because it's the same inverse square law. I mean, it's ugly. And then when you say the photons are waving, they're doing this, and they're doing this, and these silly fields, yeah, my immediate reaction was, what the fuck is that as an answer? How the fuck does a photon know how to do this bullshit? You can't make the simple universe more complicated than the universe we exist in. That's nonsensical. All right. Picking on Dave when there's too many science deniers. So where are all these science deniers that it's just such a problem? My very point is the establishment is denying science. You're a science denier if you make any kind of reasonable excuse for not redoing the Eddington experiment from space. It's a nothing experiment from space, 400 times better resolution. You're a science denier if you're going to tell me it's good science not to repeat that experiment when it costs almost fucking nothing. All right. To argue with. Something is truly wrong with your attitude. No, something's truly wrong with yours. And that's why I want the future to piss on your fucking grave. Because you're not a belligerent. You're not an innocent asshole. You're a belligerent asshole. These are very good arguments I'm making. You're ignoring every fucking one of them. Okay, and just preaching this crap like we have to believe it because they say so. You have zero fucking evidence of this kinetic energy crap ever doing the work you predict it to be capable of doing. Not a single fucking way to collect it. Amazing. And make no mistake, I share the same worldview with you on many things, but here is a sincere suggestion to you. Fuck you. My sincere suggestion to you is find an evidenced argument. If you're going to say you're not a religion, then show me how you're different than a religion. Show me how you're not just some fucking pope saying, this is what I think God was thinking. I'll write it in the Bible and we'll just say it's the truth. And we don't have to demonstrate anything. We don't have to show you anything. We don't have to show you God's fingerprint. No, we don't have to show you a footprint. Nothing. Zero evidence. And we'll just tell you it's the fucking truth. Do you really think you have any evidence there is such a thing as a fucking quark, for example? Do you really understand why they claim the stupid thing exists? What experiment showed them the existence of this thing that only exists for a millionth of a second? Oh, fuck you. Fix your attitudes. Fuck yourself. I mean, really, just fuck you. What a jackass. Ugh. I mean, how many... every fucking video I'm sitting there pleading, if you're going to make a comment, could you please provide one piece of reasoning, one rational reason why you claim I'm wrong? Explain how I have said something that is fucking correct, you motherfucker, and you can't do it. All right. Translation. I don't like what YouTube has this thing called the comments section that can hold me accountable. So again, it's a clear lie. I'm saying, go ahead, email me. I'm saying, look, I have a right not to be treated worse than the people I comment on, okay? I don't comment on people's videos this kind of crap ever. In my whole fucking life, I have never typed this kind of crap on anybody's video, ever. This is useless fucking puke, all right? And so I have every right to expect some sort of respect for myself, and I don't have to put up with this shit. So, I mean, if you can't be on the subject, you can't make a reasoned argument, and all you can make is stupid insults, I have every right to say fuck you. And I'm challenging you. If you have some fucking physics argument to make, email me the fucking argument, prove you emailed it to me, and prove I didn't read it. Because I do read it. I will respond to it if it's on the fucking subject of physics, you fucking weasel. Make a physics argument. Demonstrate it. Show a piece of fucking evidence. Oh, amazing. For this bullshit that I spew, and let's just delete everyone's comments after I've read them, for fuck's sake. Who does that on the internet, right? I mean, the comment sections and all your fanboy videos, do they ever bother? No. So fuck you. I mean, what a lame fucking pile of crap. I'll just remove it. I'll give you a chance to defend your bullshit. You can't make a single argument where you quote something I have said and then point to the fucking piece of evidence that demonstrates me to be wrong. You can't accomplish that fucking task, you weasel. All right. You look like a ghoul and you don't understand physics. So, gee, I mean, that's decisive argument, ain't it? Oh, you're just like, oh, come on. Let's see. Keep up the good work. Well, that's kind of useless too, and it's another little anime icon. I just really couldn't care less about that shit. All right. Force equals the rate of change in momentum with respect to time. So again, you keep doing this bullshit, and Newton already wrote this, and he already stated exactly what it means. So yes, this is all fine until you decide that you're going to multiply a seconds times a seconds, when it's 1 second times 1 second. All right, momentum is a mass times velocity. Yes, it's already got time in it, so there's no point in, playing a game like somehow you need to say per second per second. No, it's per a number of seconds. So if you want to say it's 5 seconds, then you multiply 5 times 1 and you get a 5. That's how you play fair. It's 9.8 meters per second, per 1 second. If it's 5 seconds, then you multiply 5 times 9.8, not 25. Oh, fuck. Velocity is the distance of... So it's just such a waste of time. With a constant mass, the time derivative... So this is, we've been over this so many fucking times. No point. I mean, just fuck off with this bullshit. Show me a piece of fucking evidence, you weasel. God damn. Alright, electrons in neutrons, question mark. So, again, there's lots of places it's been stated. I mean, do I really have to go scour the internet for the statement? It's in Wikipedia pages. So, I mean, it's, it's, for most physicists, this is a known fact that fucking neutrons decay into a proton, an electron, and an antineutrino. That's what comes out. So you have a neutron all by itself, and it ends up being no neutron and a proton, an electron, and an antineutrino. Now, I'd argue they have no way of detecting the antineutrino. It's just a calculated quantity, so it doesn't really exist. But clearly the electron and proton are real things, asshole. What are you on about? I mean, just amazing. Okay. Neutrons are made of quarks, says you. Okay. And clearly, even if they were made of quarks, a physicist will tell you quarks are never anything other than protons unless you smash them to pieces in an insanely high energy event. So outside of an insanely high energy event, quarks never are identifiable as quarks because they're inside the proton making the proton. The proton is the quarks. So it's almost imbecilically silly to say neutrons are made of quarks when neutrons are made out of a proton and an electron. By definition, the physicists don't say it decays into quarks. They say it decays into a proton and an electron. Fuckhead. All right. 2 down and 1 up. Instead, these quarks have charges. Down quarks have negative 1/3. So you say. For where? Why do you say it? Because you saw a quark? No. So indeed, there are no negative charges, but not electrons. So indeed, there are negative charges, but not electrons. So again, somehow he's saying there's a negative charge inside the positive proton. And clearly, everybody who understands anything about how charges work know that there's no negative charge in a proton. The proton excretes clearly just a positive force. The and the negative force, the north, south, however you want to look at it, they are reliable in their functionality, and it's just idiotic to say protons are dipoles or to say that an electron was a dipole. It's just too fucking silly. You have no evidence of that at all. Zero evidence that protons don't always look like a proton. From any angle, a proton is a proton. All right. If what you were referencing was Betis Midas decay, where a neutron expels an electron and becomes a proton. Now, becoming a proton is just too silly, right? So it expelled the electron and became a proton. Why couldn't I argue, no, it expelled a proton and became an electron? Couldn't I argue the exact opposite? This is such baby talk. I mean, you're playing such a silly game. Oh, look at all this crap. All right. Well, I mean, it's just hilarious. This is so fucking stupid. That doesn't mean there is an electron living inside the neutron, because that would mean you get annihilation of matter. So why would there be annihilation? Electrons and protons do not annihilate. So again, just who says so? Where in physics did you prove that if I put an electron and a proton in a box, they're going to annihilate? Where did you prove that? All right, inside a proton, because if a neutron expelling an electron via beta minus decay means that there is an electron inside of it. What? Then that means there is a proton inside a proton. So again, just more nonsense. We know there's only 2 things left over. A neutron goes in and 2 things are left over that matter. Again, antineutrinos don't matter. An electron and a proton. And it makes so much perfect goddamn sense. Again, why would something called a proton be in a nucleus? Just think about it for a second. If something was truly neutral, how could it stay in a neutral? Why would it hang out with electrons and protons? It wouldn't be attracted. It wouldn't be repelled. It wouldn't be in any way affected that could matter. So why the fuck would it be there? Oh, you people, I just can't believe how stupid you are. What do you think happens when an electron gets close to a proton? What do you think you have then? Oh, it's just so stupid. A piece of antimatter inside matter, so I don't believe in antimatter quite, So, I mean, obviously you have no proof of antimatter, which would cause annihilation, and you have no proof of that, okay? Stop shitting on people who know what they're talking about. They don't know it, haven't studied it, haven't researched it. Again, it doesn't take much research. Go look up Leibniz. Okay, he believed in solitons and monads. He was so religiously aggressive, he wanted Newton shut the fuck up, and Descartes. He wanted their books basically burned because they were heretics. That's the asshole you're defending. All right, if you're the one who has no idea, the the electron and neutron ramp was one but many I could have made. You didn't make any argument, so you didn't undo my argument at all. It makes perfectly good sense that the neutron would have both charges and therefore look neutral from a distance. Perfectly sensible argument. And clearly, you don't need a strong force if you understand that, yes, if I put an electron between two protons, I can get protons really close to each other. So it makes perfect sense. It creates all kinds of great geometry for the structure of a nucleus. It's just win all over the place. And you completely failed. And then on top of that, I have a simulation that shows it working. So, fuck you. All right. Also, got to add that when Dave mentions mysterious force and you slam him, I'm slamming physics. What the fuck? What's the point of this? I'll just call it a force. I'll just say there's an electron force, there's a proton force, then there's a neutrino force, and then there's a zeno force. I mean, there's four. For every particle, there's a different field that is forcing it about. I mean, it's too ridiculous. You're the stupid one because he's just making a video appealing to his audience. He's talking to people who are ignorant, that is, so usually students and such, and pretending he's giving them good information when he's giving them shit they made up. He's teaching them a religion. He's not teaching them science. If he was teaching them science, he would teach them that you should wait for evidence. If I can't show you how a quark exists, then you shouldn't believe in it. So let me show you how we prove the existence of quarks. And as soon as he attempts to do that, he's going to fail because it's not even going to be a two-slit example. There's not even going to be a fringes to, there's going to be almost zero evidence to support this silly nonsense. Using language that accommodates their lack of understanding and gets this, it is because they have a lack of understanding. They find, watch the video. Yeah, exactly. So you're proving my point. He's a child molester. He's talking religious shit, unevidenced crap, okay, that he believes. All right, he doesn't believe for any good reason. It was just droned into him at his catechism, and that's all. So he's just a Catholic reciting the biblical verses. This is a little something called language convention. The fact that you feel the need to attack this exposes your pettiness. So obviously, it's just kind of idiotic. What has been exposed is your inability to stay on the subject, your inability to actually acknowledge the arguments that have been made. That's what's been exposed. Okay. Stupidity and lack of real arguments, as they are not the substance of the video. So that's just a lie. I mean, the videos are just constantly showing the different things, the different ways that it doesn't work, that this fucking idiotic theory fails. So you're just such a fucking liar. All right, so that's it for the new comments, I believe. This was a good, I found a short video about hydraulics. That was a good video. Anyway, so yeah, you have to go back to a bunch of 1950s videos to actually see experiments, which seems amazing. And then when you watch the video, you say, why did they jump to these conclusions? So you watch the Stern-Gerlach experiment, for example, and it's almost amazing that they could sit there and pretend they were measuring electron spins. They're just silver atoms. They're shooting at various speeds. And then some of the atoms don't turn because they're going fast, so they can't turn, okay, and face a magnetic field. So it's like I could throw, you could understand, right? I could throw a magnet north-south. And if I throw it fast enough, even if I have a field that's south-north, it wouldn't matter. The magnet can't turn and then move in the magnetic field. because it's going too fast to turn. It's literally going through the field fast, so the field can't affect it. You could understand that, right? It just doesn't have enough time to affect it because it's going through the field fast. And that's all Stern Gerlach is showing, is that yes, the fast atoms don't turn, the slow atoms turn. And that's all it's showing. And so it just shows that if I finally make the magnetic field really, really strong, I'll be able to turn all the atoms. And so they just go in, some go in north-south, some go in south-north, and all you see is half of them go this way and half of them go that way. It's completely unremarkable. And all that hype, electron spin hype nonsense, when the experiment has nothing to do with electrons and anything called a spin. All right. Oh, it's just so bad. This is just so bad. You people are so despicable. All right. So yeah, the next video, I think I'll do the spring argument, and just as a single video, shouldn't be very long, and I'll just ask for anybody to just show me anywhere in the history of physics where some physicist pointed out how, yeah, you really can't use, you have to be careful when you're going to use springs in an experiment, because they have a decided bias against light objects. They don't give them back the energy. I mean, it's so simple an argument, right? That you could see it happening. So that's how you notice it. You start looking for it and you say, yeah, how come nobody accounts for that fact? The faster the spring expands, that is, the lighter the object, the higher the velocity, the more likely the spring is going to be doing this after the object leaves. The spring's going to keep going, keep wobbling, because the object left while the spring was still giving away a very high velocity, and the spring is still moving at a high velocity. And so obviously the spring itself still contains a lot of energy. So the more mass in the spring obviously would also indicate the more it could keep without giving it back. And the stiffer the spring, the less that'll be a problem. But clearly it makes a huge difference. Anyway. And yeah, nobody's ever talked about it or said anything about it that I've ever noticed anywhere in all of the thousands of science videos I have watched. So anyway, and all of the Wikipedia pages I have read. Yeah. I guess I could go there, right? There's probably a Wikipedia page on springs. Let's see if they acknowledge that springs collect energy very well. But they do have a flaw in giving it back. Alright, so they collect momentum very well. They don't collect anything. They don't collect kinetic energy. They collect momentum, like everything else. Alright, so we'll call that a video. And such, and so forth, and whatnot. So let's see. There's got to be somebody with integrity. We got to be able to just find one scientifically literate person who isn't an asshole, a lying sack of shit, unaccountable, propagandizing, dishonest fuck. That's all. That's all we're looking for, is one honest physicist. Because the fact is, I have done everything a good science person is supposed to do, which is raise real arguments about real flaws in their theory. And the fact that they have cowardly run away from answering any of these arguments just demonstrates they have no integrity, that their knowledge of science hasn't in any way been commensurate with their capacity to learn how to be a good human, an honest human of integrity. They don't have any of that. All right. So enough and such. So till the next time, get what you deserve, you pieces of shit. Ugh. You are getting it, frankly. The world's shit, and it's a reflection of how fucked the whole idea of intelligence has become. Because intelligence does not, there's no proportional relationship to integrity. They've destroyed that relationship that used to exist.